It is 11:55 on January 8th. I'm Devin, and this is the DS Sports Podcast. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to start out by previewing the College Football National Championship that's coming up on Monday. We'll talk about the Deshaun Watson news that came out this week, and I'll also be giving my NBA power rankings of the first one of the year. So let's get right into it. College Football National Championship is Monday. We have Ohio State and Justin Fields going up against Alabama and Heisman winner Devontae Smith. It's not the matchup I predicted, but it should be a fun one. Jumping right into it, Justin Fields, I think we want to talk about quarterbacks. He definitely has an advantage over Mac Jones. Mac Jones has played well as a passer this season as a pocket passer, but Fields has a little bit more mobility, and I do think he just has a higher upside in general. Mac Jones has been put in a lot of good situations with his team and all the talent that Alabama has, and he deserves all the credit for how well he's played. But down to down, I do think Fields is the better quarterback, and he may show that Monday. Alabama's defense, it's very good. It's not perfect. They gave up a lot of points both against Ole Miss and Florida this season, and I think Ohio State should take those formulas for those games to take in the national championship. I think Ohio State's offense is going to be able to keep up with Alabama's defense. But the real question to me is, can Ohio State's defense get stops against Alabama? Jalen Waddle, it seems like he's coming back. And let's remember, Jalen Waddle is a speedy receiver for Alabama. And he was outplaying Devontae Smith, who just won the Heisman before he got hurt earlier this season. I'm not sure Ohio State has the personnel to match up with him, Smith, or John Mechie, the other receiver on the team. And especially if they line up in the slot, I don't think Ohio State has a guy who can go in there and play with them, especially since they run a lot of base personnel anyway. They don't usually run a nickel cornerback out there, so you're going to have a strong safety lined up against one of those guys on a lot of plays, and I think Alabama may be able to take advantage of that just with crossing routes and allowing those guys to beat man-to-man coverage. I don't think Ohio State's cover 3, cover 1 heavy scheme has the talent or discipline to stop the Alabama offense, and that's not just in the passing game. I don't think they have the run defense to stop them. Alabama's very multiple defensively, and if Ohio State is going to keep up, it's going to be because of the talent they have on the perimeter and also at the tight end position. I think it's unlikely even as good as Patrick Surtain and Josh Jobe are for Alabama in man-to-man coverage. I'm not sure they can stop Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, the receivers for Ohio State, in one-on-one coverage. So they may have to play a little bit of too high coverage against Ohio State, and then that's going to open up the chances for Ohio State to run the ball with Trey Sermon and to throw the ball to their tight ends, Luke Farrell and I forget Jeremy Ruckert. He kind of killed Clemson a little bit. So I think if Ohio State is going to win, they're gonna have to change something on defense because they just don't match up well with. I mean, who does match up well with Alabama? But if they're going to keep up on offense, they gonna have to beat Alabama's corners early in one-on-one coverage with Olave and Wilson, and then target those tight ends and establish the run. Alabama's linebackers are very susceptible in coverage. Dylan Moses is one of them. He's really good in run defense, but in coverage, he just doesn't have those instincts. And I do think Ohio State can use their players over the middle to exploit that. But Ohio State will have to win. The Buckeyes will have to play a physical brand of football that we haven't seen them play a lot this season. I'm not sure they can do that. I don't think they can do that. So I am going to predict Alabama to win on Monday night, 43-33 over Ohio State. And that will be the end of the college football season. And then we get into draft season. I'll start to do player evaluations and talk about the upcoming prospects for this year's draft. On to the next thing. Deshaun Watson and these trade rumors. Let me give some background. Earlier this week, I talked about on Tuesday's podcast, the Texans hired Nick Caserio, a well-known GM candidate from the Patriots. And according to Adam Schefter, the team did not even consult Deshaun Watson about this hire. After telling him that they were going to consult him on hires and consider his candidates for a position. So they didn't do that. You get your star franchise quarterback angry. And it's just a horrible chain of events that the Texans have brought on themselves. First, last year, you trade DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick, and I'm sorry, but a washed-up running back in David Johnson. Not to mention the Laramie Tunsil trade, even though that kind of helped Deshaun Watson, but you gave up 2 first-round picks for a good left tackle, but in no way a left tackle worth 2 first-round picks. Now you got this. I mean, it's simple. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Help the man out. Consider his candidates. Let him have a say. And to go over his head, and it's just simple mistakes. I don't get how these organizations make these kind of mistakes, like trading for Nick Foles or sticking with Mitchell Trubisky. Sorry, Bears. But last offseason, during the summer, when Hopkins got traded, I said, hey, I don't like players requesting trades. You see it in the NBA all the time, and we're starting to see it more and more in the NFL. I never like it, but if I was in Deshaun Watson's position, if I was him and they just traded one of the best receivers in the league for a second-round pick, which I believe they used on defensive lineman Ross Blacklock out of TCU, who didn't really do much at all this season, and David Johnson, I request a trade right with that. But now with this, same thing. Deshaun Watson should request a trade. Deshaun Watson should request a trade. Will he? I have no idea. But if he does, I'm not sure the Texans would even trade him if he does. But you have to think about it, especially if he demands or he says he's going to hold out. So we can talk about a few trade options. And I have 3 right here. The first I would think about is the Miami Dolphins. They have the picks. They have 2 or 3 in this year's first round. I'm trying to remember, but I'm not sure. But one of them is the 3rd pick in the draft, and it is the Texans' pick. The Dolphins can also send back Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think Deshaun Watson makes the Dolphins contenders, because I'm of the belief that outside of Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, they don't have that much talent on defense. Brian Flores made their team look really good, and their offense is just atrocious. And they definitely become a respectable playoff team with Watson, but I'm not sure they become contenders or anything. The Texans would be able to replace Hopkins at 3 with either Waddle or Smith or my guy Jamar Chase out of LSU. Or they could draft a tackle like Penei Sewell to give the Tua and the offensive line that Deshaun Watson never had in Houston. So they give themselves a lot of options, and they kind of replenish their picks that they've lost over the past couple of years with that move. The second option I'm thinking about is the Jets. You could get Sam Darnold and then a similar deal. The Jets have 2 first-round picks this year, and, I mean, they'd have to give up picks next year as well. Watson makes the Jets a playoff contender, I think. I think the Jets with Watson are better than the Texans with Watson, just because of some of the talent they have on defense. But a few games go different ways, and the Texans are contending for a playoff spot this year. So I think that the Jets would definitely be interested in that trade. I'm not sure why the Texans would take that trade over what the Dolphins could offer. But if the Dolphins say, hey, we got Tua, we're fine with that, then you might go with that Jets deal. If for some reason you like Darnold more than Tua, I guess there's probably some people in NFL front offices who are still big fans of Sam Darnold, then that would be another reason for the Texans to take that deal. Last but not least, the deal I want to happen, Deshaun Watson to the San Francisco 49ers. It would probably involve Jimmy G being traded to the Texans, and then the Niners' first-round pick this year, next year, the year after that, and probably a second this year. So the Texans get the first-round picks back that they needed, that they lost in these past couple of trades. And the Niners, I think with Deshaun Watson, if they're healthy, bias aside, they become Super Bowl favorites, or at least seen in the same category as the Chiefs. This Niners team went 6-10 with having 43 players go on injured reserve, I believe, something like that. That may be wrong, but they were the most injured team in the league. But if they're healthy next season with Deshaun Watson, I don't see how they're not the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year. So that's the trade I'd like to see. I'm not sure why the Texans would do that if the Dolphins are offering the deal I talked about before, but it's the one I'd like to see. I think there's a low chance he actually gets traded, but it's always exciting to talk about elite players moving around. Some people are talking about a trade to the Jaguars. That's not happening. The Texans, let me take that back. Maybe they will. They trade DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick, but you would think the Texans aren't going to trade Watson within the division and then have to see him mess them up 2 times a year. Again, I'd take the Dolphins deal if I had to trade him. I don't want to trade him if I'm Nick Caserio right now. But in my heart of hearts, of course, I want him to go to the Niners. Okay. Now, let's talk about these New York Jets. They're not getting Deshaun Watson, but I think they can have a good offseason and then contend for the playoffs next year. I'm of the belief that because of the parity in today's league, any team in the NFL, if they make the right moves, you look at the Dolphins from last season. You make the right moves, you can contend for a playoff spot in the next year. So first of all, the first move for these New York Jets is to hire Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. He's a great offensive mind. He's he's reinvigorated the career of Ryan Tannehill, and the Titans went to the conference championship last year, and they could make it this year. So I think you hire Arthur Smith, let him install his system, bring a good defensive guy over. And then the first move you make this offseason is you trade Sam Darnold somewhere before his trade value goes down in any way, shape, or form. I think the Colts would be a good fit for him. Something like the Josh Rosen deal where you're getting a second-round pick. I do think Darnold is better than what Rosen was when he was traded, but I think probably the best you're going to get for him is a second-round pick. If you can get a first-round pick, take it first, but it's probably a second coming to you. The Jets have $76 million in cap space. So after that trade, they can make a lot of moves in free agency to fix this team. First of all, you got to re-sign Marcus May. You got to re-sign Brian Poole. May, one of the best safeties in the league, and he proved that year after Jamal Adams left. I think you can get him back for around $15 million a year. And then Brian Poole, one of the best slot corners in the league. I think he'll demand around $6 million per year. After that, I think go after a receiver. I know he's getting a lot of hate for his TikTok stuff, but I think Juju Smith-Schuster would be a good fit in New York. A contract somewhere around $17 per year. I think the next thing to look for is an edge rusher. Matthew Judon from the Ravens. They're probably not going to pay him because I think they'll invest in Yannick Ngakoue. Get him on a deal around $16 million per year. So you add some talent as a pass rusher, and then you also have a good receiver to go with Crowder and Mims. I think another good signing would also be Matt Filer. He plays offensive tackle for the Steelers, but he can move around the offensive line. Just throw some stuff at that offensive line. Make it better and better. George Fant played okay this year. Mekhi Becton played really well. But, again, you throw stuff at the offensive line, I believe, until you get a top 10 unit. Some people believe until you get at least a middling unit. The Jets are a few pieces from having at least a middling offensive line. A couple more pieces in there, and they could be a top 10 offensive line because they already have one really nice piece in Mekhi Becton. So I think Matt Filer would be a good signing. And then you need another corner to go along with Bryce Hall, who showed some flashes this year. Honestly, I think there's 3 corners on the 49ers that will be free agents this offseason. And, well, there's 4, but I don't think the Jets should go after Richard Sherman. But any one of Jason Verrett, Emmanuel Mosley, Ahkello Witherspoon, just to get somebody to play opposite Bryce Hall, I think would be a good deal if you can get them around $5 million per year. And then also, I think they should go after a running back, just somebody who can run that outside zone scheme with a little bit of power. I know James Conner did not have a great season, but if you can get he's a average running back, but if you can get him on a contract around $7 million per year, I think he'd be a good fit in that system. Now we get to the draft. First of all, number 2, draft Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. Go by whatever Joe Douglas's evaluation of them is. I think either of them will be good if they're put in the right system. I would probably lean Fields. I know a lot of people lean Wilson. Some people don't like Fields' throwing mechanics. I've been reading on Twitter the past couple of days, but I think I talked about it earlier this week. I think Fields is a special prospect. So I go Fields at 2. At 27, target another offensive lineman, offensive tackle like Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama. Another freaky athlete like Mekhi Becton. So you're just, again, throwing stuff at that offensive line, seeing what sticks, and building a line to protect Justin Fields. At 34, I think you go back to the offensive side of the ball, draft Rondale Moore, the wide receiver or offensive weapon out of Purdue. Let him compete with Mims for playing time at that Z position, that speedster. He's a broken tackle machine, and he does have some sort of special ability. The reason I'm saying invest in a receiver in the second round, even though you just signed a receiver in Smith Schuster and drafted a receiver in the second round in Mims last year, is because you want, again, until you have an elite unit like the Bills or the Buccaneers, you throw stuff at that position group until it's elite. And there's going to be nothing wrong with Rondale Moore and Denzel Mims competing for playing time. And also, Jamison Crowder is going to be a free agent in a couple of years, and he's getting older. So one of them may be able to replace him. Ultimately, I do think one of Rondale Moore or Denzel Mims will work out. So I think you give yourself a better chance to have a elite unit. At 54, which would be the pick from the Colts that you trade for with Darnold, I say go after another edge rusher, someone like Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest, someone with some kind of upside, some sort of athletic upside to play opposite Matthew Judon. Maybe not in his first year, but to build up that, again, you're building up your strengths. Or building units into strengths. So now with that unit, you have Basham, Matthew Judon, Falaranzu Fadikasi, Henry Anderson, and Quentin Williams. And actually, we're going to throw a little bit more with our next pick, 66. We're going to go after Christian Barmore, the interior defender out of Alabama, who's actually a talented pass rusher that at the beginning of the year was compared to someone like Quentin Williams. His stock has fallen a little bit because he had some injury issues and he never really put together that production that we saw, but the flashes have been there. So bring in someone like Barmore, again, maybe not playing over Henry Anderson in his first year, but eventually may give you that production that you lost in someone like Leonard Williams. And last but not least, we're not going to go round 4 through 7 because those are usually depth picks. And if you find a star in those picks, you're getting lucky. But at 90, I say go Andre Cisco, the free safety out of Syracuse. One of the best playmakers in college football, has some of the best ball production I've ever seen in college football. Interceptions, pass deflections. Your true deep safety. Let Marcus May play a little bit more down in the box, or they can flip back and forth because Cisco does have some experience playing in the nickel. Ashton Davis, who I believe was a third-round pick for the Jets last year, didn't really work out. He was given some playing time because Jamal Adams got traded, but he wasn't great this year. So, again, you're throwing stuff at that room. Maybe Ashton Davis beats out Andre Cisco because he's improved, but you've allowed there to be competition there, and you're building up that group. And I do think that team, if Fields plays the way I think he will, or Wilson, can compete for a playoff spot in the AFC. They may not make the playoffs next year, but they have a chance to go 9-7, 10-6. A real chance. Okay, so that's football. Let's get to basketball. Talk about the NBA a little bit. First of all, I want to talk about this man, Markelle Fultz. Former number 1 pick, went through every hardship you could possibly go through as an NBA player. Been called a bust, had injury issues, thought he was never going to play again. Has come back, become a starter on the Magic, and then he tears his ACL. he's just signed a 3-year, $50 million contract extension earlier this season, and his career was really a resurgence. Like, he was averaging 14, 4, and 6 this season, and like, he was looking like a real starting point guard in the NFL. I mean, the NBA. It's just sad to see. This Magic team, I think, had maybe some real upside, especially with how they're playing now. If Fultz and Isaac were playing this season, but it just sucks. A little story I have about Fultz. When he was coming out of college, I loved him. Like, a lot of people liked Lonzo Ball that year, 2017. I loved Fultz. Celtics ended up with the number 1 pick. We ended up trading back with the Sixers to get Jason Tatum, who's ended up being the best player from that class. No, not Donovan Mitchell. But I thought Fultz was the guy in that class. I loved him. Derrick Rose, D'Angelo Russell, James Harden type player. Some mix of those guys. All the scoring ability in the world. Big guard. He just didn't work out in Philly. And it looked like he was working out in Orlando. I mean, he didn't look like he was going to be a star, but a starter for sure. And now, I mean, can you come back from all of this? Like, do you just become a rotation player at this point? Because the team can't trust you to be healthy. But sad story. Hopefully he gets better and he comes back strong, but we'll see. Also, 12 players in the NBA. I keep reading these stories on ESPN and stuff about all these positive COVID tests. That it's probably not, but it feels like more than what's going on with the NFL. The scary thing about this is NBA plays way more games. They play multiple games a week. So if you're postponing and canceling games, it starts to throw off the rhythm of the season. And you only have 15 players or so on a roster. One player gets it. 4 or 5 players could have been around them for the close contact or whatever. You could have a team out of commission for 2 weeks. That's something that could seriously happen. Hopefully this stuff is all dealt with at some point, but with how quickly we're seeing tests come up positive more and more, I'm really not sure how the NBA can go throughout the whole season and get all the games in. But on a brighter note, let's talk NBA power rankings. We're going to start 30 down to 1 or up to 1. And I want you to disregard team record here. We're only like 8 games into a season. Records can lie, but watching how well these teams are playing, I rank them by who I think is the best team right now. So we'll go a little bit more in depth on every single team as I go through the rankings. At number 30, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's sad to see from what I've seen, we're the worst team in the league. Watching the Thunder games, which was kind of the plan. You trade away all these players, get a bunch of picks. It's really a tanking season, but you don't like to see one of your favorite teams losing a bunch of games. George Hill's been the best player on this team. Ignore the stats. When he's out there, he makes the team better. He takes good shots, and he's not missing shots either. I think having Horford and Hill will allow the Thunder to compete in games. Like, I don't see them getting blown out a lot. I mean, it's definitely going to happen a couple times, but I don't see them getting blown out like consistently, like having a week where they're losing by 15 points every single game. But I also think at least George Hill, maybe Mike Muscala, are going to get traded soon. At the trade deadline, you can probably get a first-round pick from a contender for George Hill. And there's no way Sam Presti passes that up. Lou Dort, my boy, has taken a step shooting from three. He's averaging 13 points per game. He's shooting 44% from three. Maybe just for more opportunities, but he's definitely improved his shooting. I need to see more from SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Supposed to be the franchise player for the Thunder. He's putting up around the same numbers from last season, but he's been way less efficient. You cannot plateau at where you were last year. He was a very good player for the Thunder on what was a playoff team and one that almost made it to the second round. But he cannot plateau with his production. Thunder are the worst offense in the league right now. They're turning the ball over way too much. Right now the record is okay. Just beat the Knicks tonight, but I see a trail of losses coming soon. At number 29, I have the Detroit Pistons. Their minute management is weird. Blake Griffin, Mason Plumlee, Derrick Rose, Delon Wright. They're getting way too much playing time for a team that's this bad. Like, you're playing. Maybe Dwayne Casey's feeling a little bit of pressure to win, but you're playing these vets on a team that should be focused on development. Sadly enough, one of my favorite players from this year's draft, Killian Hayes, is out for a while with a torn labrum, I believe. But he wasn't playing very well at all while he was playing for the Pistons. Jeremy Grant has actually been a pleasant surprise, former Oklahoma City Thunder. For the Pistons, he signed a big contract this offseason, and he's living up to it. He's averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. Also, Josh Jackson is having a bit of a resurgence. He's averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, and they're both playing really well. And I think the Pistons need to focus on those guys' development, but the guys who can be part of this team's future. Blake Griffin, Mason Plumlee, they're not part of the future. They also need to get some more playing time and development for Sadiq Bey, who's one of their first-round picks. The issue with him is he can't make anything that's not a three. He's shooting really well from three. Some people are saying he's playing really good defense. I don't see it. But he cannot hit anything inside the paint. And then there's Sekou Doumbia, who just can't make anything. But the Pistons need to stop focusing on getting all these veterans minutes for no reason because they're not winning games, and focus on development of these young players. At number 28, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Colin Sexton's playing great. He's their best player on offense. He's scoring 25 points per game. Real contender for most improved player. He's shooting 52% from three. The team defense has been great so far. Darius Garland got hurt a couple games ago, which really messes them up because he was also having a really good season. But Larry Nance and Andre Drummond are leading the way defensively for this team. And I do think they have some potential. They're not going to be a playoff team this year, I think. But they're showing some upside. Their rookie, Isaac Okoro, has not played well at all, but it's a young team that you're seeing growth from. At number 27, I have the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo's, hear me out, he's been as expected, but he's coming off the bench. I actually would argue he's been one of their best players. Per 36 minutes, he's averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, which are really good numbers. And he's an inefficient shooter. It's what we thought he would be. I actually have a hot take watching him and Rozier and Gordon Hayward. He's one of the best defenders on the team. Like, he's fighting defensively. He should be starting. He should be getting more playing time. He's the future of the team. And I mean, maybe he ends up being a bust. Maybe the coaching staff doesn't like him, but you have to see what you have in him. Also, I don't know why he's coming off the bench for Devontae Graham. Graham played really well last year, but he's been horrible. He's shooting 26% from the field, 32% from three. He's only averaging like 10 points per game. He should be coming off the bench. Play him in a six-man role. Let him be a scorer off the bench. Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier are playing really well. I do think the Hornets have a chance to move up the rankings. They're playing really well. They're playing really good team ball. They lead the league in assists, but I need to see a little bit more before I'm moving them up from 27. The Knicks, they have inspired hot takes. As of right now, they're 5-4. They just lost to Thunder tonight. Julius Randle, he's averaging 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. Mitchell Robinson and Austin Rivers are all playing really well. RJ Barrett scares me, though. He's super inefficient, and he's becoming one of those guys who just takes a bunch of shots. The scoring number doesn't look bad, but he just takes way too many shots and does not make enough of them. The Knicks have not been good as a team offensively. They're playing well on defense, which you can see from Tom Thibodeau, coach teams. But they're people are saying the Knicks are back or the Knicks are going to challenge for a playoff spot. No. The Spurs at 25, San Antonio Spurs. They're running this interesting three-wing lineup with DeJounte Murray's playing point guard and Aldridge is playing center. But then they have Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, and DeMar DeRozan playing as the 2 through 4. Their defense as a team has not been great, but it's been an interesting, more fun Spurs team, even though they're not an amazing team. DeRozan's playmaking and shooting ability it seems like it's developing, even though he's old as crap. And Patty Mills is shooting really well from the field. I don't know if this little experiment is going to lead to anything. I don't think it will. But those two are carrying the load pretty well. This team they're just not talented enough to contend for a playoff spot. That's why I have them here. But for the first time in a while, the Spurs might be fun to watch. At 24, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Karl-Anthony Towns' injury has killed this team. No one else on the team is playing exceptionally well. D'Angelo Russell's turning the ball over way too much. They can't stop anyone. Anthony Edwards isn't playing well. You picked him first overall. He's only shooting 41% from the field, 29% from three. 2 turnovers per game. And he's not even been a starter. Only thing worse than Anthony Edwards is Jarrett Culver, who they picked 6th or 7th last year, and he already looks like a bust. He can't hit anything. Timberwolves may be looking at their top pick in next year's draft. I'm keeping them at 24 for right now because Towns is coming back. And when he did play, they were 2-0. So maybe he turns the tides for this team, but if not, this team's moving down and they may be 30 in a couple weeks. At number 23, I have the Chicago Bulls. Guys, Wendell Carter might just be bad. Wendell Carter Jr., the former center for Duke, now the center for the Chicago Bulls. He's averaging 2 turnovers per game, and he doesn't even touch the ball that much offensively. He doesn't really do much defensively at all. Out of college, I thought he was going to be a really nice, like, Al Horford type player, but he just hasn't turned out to be anything. This team's defense is really, really bad, and that's in big part the fault of Zach LaVine and Kobe White, who are just horrible on that end of the floor. Otto Porter Jr. should be getting way more shots for this team. He's been the best player on the team all season, or through these first couple games. But he's just not getting the shots that Zach LaVine and Kobe White are. Lowry Markkanen was playing really well, but he's out right now, so that hurts the team. The rest of these starters need to step up. White and LaVine need to start playing some defense, and Patrick Williams and Wendell Carter need to start helping out on offenses. This team has talent, and some people saw with Billy Donovan coming over them maybe making the playoffs. If they don't change some stuff they're doing, they're going to be bottom of the league. At number 22, I have the Sacramento Kings. Tyrese Halliburton is so good. I know I talked about it Tuesday, but again, he makes all the right decisions. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he makes 3 after 3 after 3. Again, De'Aaron Fox, Rashawn Holmes, and Harrison Barnes are all also playing very well. Maybe making this team a playoff team, but there's 2 things holding them back. Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield. They've both been horrible. How if you're Marvin Bagley, how do you turn the ball over 3 times a game? You don't even get the ball that much. It's like Wendell Carter, but on a worse scale, because he can't hit a shot to save his life. I liked Bagley coming out of college. I can't believe the Kings took him over Luka Doncic, but he's looking like a bust. Maybe he needs a change of scenery, but it's rough. The defense has been really bad. It's holding them back. I think that really Marvin Bagley needs to be benched and Tyrese Halliburton needs to be moved into his starting lineup. And maybe that helps them, but we'll see. At number 21, I have the Orlando Magic. I know they're 6-2. But the Markelle Fultz injury is going to hurt. I think Cole Anthony, if they make him the starter, he can pick up some of the slack, but you do lose 14, 15 points per game. The team does not shoot the 3 well at all. Their only good 3-point shooters are Terrence Ross and Nikola Vucevic right now. I do not trust their offense yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks they're still playing like this and we can have a conversation about it, but right now Terrence Ross is averaging like 21 points per game. I don't think the 6-2 is sustainable. They've played well at the beginning of the season, but they go up against a team like the Trailblazers, who I have above them, or the Nuggets, or the Pacers. Man, I'm picking those teams over the Magic right now. Another team that may be moving down further as the weeks go on. At number 20, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. are out, which destroys this team. We talked about it on Tuesday. Brandon Clark, who is one of the best rookies in the league last year, is only shooting 21% from 3. This kills them. Dylan Brooks can't hit a shot, kills them. Their offense has been horrible. when Georgie Jang is the only player on your team really providing value when he's on the floor, you have issues. So the Grizzlies may be moving down big time over the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. At 19, I have the Washington Wizards. The Magic and the Wizards are probably going to flip over the next couple of weeks, but I wanted to keep them there for right now. They're 2-6, I know, but this team, they can score. They have a really, really I value offense in today's league. The coaching from Scott Brooks has been really bad, but Bradley Beal's leading the offense. He's averaging 34 points per game. He doesn't do anything defensively. He's not a good defender, but 34 points per game is 34 points per game. Russell Westbrook's averaging a triple-double again. Thomas Bryant is having a real breakout season. He's averaging 17 points per game. The team has the talent to be in every game they play, and that's why I'm keeping them here. But if Brooks doesn't start capitalizing on this talent, maximizing it, I think he's going to be on the hot seat because talent-wise, they are not a bad team. Also, Davis Bertans has kind of regressed this season, but I expect him to start shooting better as well. At 18, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Somehow, this team is okay defensively. My take all offseason was they are going to be one of the best offenses in the league, but they're not going to be able to stop anyone. Somehow, they're okay. In part, that's due to DeAndre Hunter. Hunter has stepped up big time. He's averaging, I think, 16 points per game, and he's providing real two-way versatility. Like, he's great on offense. He's great on defense. My issue with this team right now is that they have a lot of important players hurt, and Chris Dunn, Onyeka Okongwu, their first-round pick this year, Danilo Gallinari, Rajon Rondo. They're all missing time, which I think keeps them at 18. But once they get healthy, I think they may move into top 10 as the season comes along. And they have the chance to be really dangerous because they do have a lot of firepower on this team. They build it the right way. At number 17, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. Brandon Ingram is unbelievably good. Like, all NBA level good right now. And also, their defense is playing amazing. But my issue with this team right now, and what's keeping them as a playoff contender and not a sure playoff team, is outside of Ingram and Zion, no one on this team can score. There's just no scoring. Steven Adams is playing well, but he's not a scorer. Eric Bledsoe's not doing much in the scoring category. I'm good to talk about Lonzo, but I don't even want to talk about Lonzo. JJ Redick's not playing well. They're just in a rough spot. It might be time to give up on Lonzo Ball. 7 another really disappointing season. He's only shooting 40% from the field. 4.5 assists to 3 turnovers. He might be done. He might be done. It might be time to bench him. Sad to see, but it is what it is. At 16, I have the Portland Trailblazers. Their defense is still an issue, as it's always been. The only good defender in the rotation is Robert Covington, but he can't make a shot right now. CJ McCollum's keeping pace with Damian Lillard, which is cool to see. But again, their defense, they have nobody in the rotation who can play defense. How in the world is Derrick Jones Jr. playing this much? He doesn't do anything. He has a cool dunk once in a while, but that's it. He does nothing for the team. I have no idea why he's on the floor. It's been the same thing with the Trailblazers the past couple of years. Their bad defense is going to keep their ceiling pretty low. At 15, I have the Indiana Pacers. They're 6-2, and they may be moving up over the next couple of weeks. Right now, Domantas Sabonis looks like an MVP candidate. He's averaging 21, 11, and 6. He looks like a baby Nikola Jokic, except he is playing pretty well defensively. They're very good on both ends of the floor. Malcolm Brogdon and Victor Oladipo can't miss. Unfortunately, TJ Warren is hurt, which is why I still have them at 15. It kind of messes them up a little bit. I won't say it kills them, but when you have 4 guys out there who can give you 30 on any night, you become really, really dangerous. Once he gets back, if this team can continue to mash and then you have Miles Turner playing great defensively, they could make a run at the conference championship kind of similarly to what the Heat did last year. I'm not saying they will, but they have a chance. At 14, I have the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Royce O'Neal are struggling. They are not playing well at all. Especially Mitchell, who's averaging 38% from the field or something like that. Luckily, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson are picking up the slack. But this team's defense is not as good as it has been in the past. They need to get their act together as a team, or they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. They're going to be in one of the play-in teams. They're going to be in the tournament. We'll talk a little bit more about Donovan Mitchell later, but I have a bit of a hot take on Donovan Mitchell. He's kind of proven my point about him from last season. At 13, I have the Houston Rockets. Another team, ignore the record. I know they're 2-4, but this team has a chance to be really good. They have a chance to be one of the best teams in the West. They have to prove it to me, but if they can get over this Harden stuff, James Harden, Christian Wood, John Wall, Eric Gordon, they're all playing very well. Christian Wood especially, who looks like an all-star starter, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. They paid for him this offseason, and he is paying off. PJ Tucker and DeMarcus Cousins look done, like completely done. I think if the Rockets can mash and get over James Harden stuff and he stays, if they can trade for a stopper on the defensive end, they could be better than last season, honestly. This team may have higher upside with Wall and Wood than they did with Westbrook on the team. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but that's what I think. At number 12, the Toronto Raptors. Again, record, ignore it. It's the beginning of the season. I know they're 1-6. But they do have some guys playing well. Chris Boucher is playing very well. He's a very versatile big man, undrafted in 2017, former G League MVP. Fred VanVleet's doing everything he can to keep the team afloat. He's averaging 21, 5, and 6. I don't know what Pascal Siakam's issue has been since the bubble, but he's got to figure it out. This team needs him to step up and be the best player on the team because Lowry's getting old and you're seeing the regression. They're struggling. They're not hitting shots, but at some point you regress back to a mean with shooting. You should. But if they don't, it may be time for a rebuild. I don't want to overreact to this team, happening with this team, because I believe in Nick Nurse and I believe in Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. But this team may be moving down over the next couple of weeks if they don't get it together. At 11, I have the Golden State Warriors. James Wiseman's really overrated, guys. Stop telling me he's the rookie of the year. Stop telling me he's some special player. He turns the ball over way too much. He's not that good of a defender. I liked him coming out, but he when I watch him, he does not show me that he's a winning player. The team's defense has been really bad. The thing that's keeping them here at 11 for me, I may be completely wrong, but right now Curry's playing like the MVP. Stephen Curry is playing like MVP Stephen Curry. Everybody knows about the 62-point performance a couple of days ago. He's averaging 35 and 6. Right now, I believe that Steph Curry can keep this team as a 6th seed, a 5th seed in the West. We're going to see what happens. He's having to do it all. Draymond Green's done. He does not look like he's able to play basketball at a high level anymore. But I think Curry can take this team to a 6th seed with his superstar sidekicks, Eric Pascal and Damian Lee. At number 10, I have the Denver Nuggets. Their defense is rough. It's always been rough. But Jokic is playing like himself. He's averaging a triple-double this season. And he's actually playing pretty okay on defense. It's just the rest of the team. Michael Porter Jr. was playing really well before COVID issues. Jamal Murray's been atrocious defensively. He's played well on offense, but another player who just contributes to the struggling defense. Gary Harris needs to be out of the rotation. He can't hit a shot. He can't stop anybody. He needs to be done. There's been talk that Michael Malone might keep Will Barton in the starting lineup when Michael Porter Jr. gets back. That would be the worst thing in the world. Will Barton is not a special defensive stopper or anything. He might have a narrative because it looks like he plays hard sometimes. He doesn't stop people. Play Michael Porter Jr. Play the guy who can score, because right now you don't really have somebody on your roster who is a stopper. You may have to trade for that player. I don't know who that's going to be, but they're not on your roster. So don't give up offense for absolutely no reason, because Will Barton's not improving you on defense. At number 9, I have the Boston Celtics. My Boston Celtics. Peyton Pritchard has been a pleasant surprise. A lot of people are giving him credit offensively. He's okay. He was shooting really well at the beginning. It's kind of come back down to earth. He had game-winning putback the other day, which was really cool. But where I see him bringing value is on the defensive side of the ball. He's super scrappy, super smart. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are playing unbelievably well without Kemba in the lineup. Tatum's averaging 26, 7, and 4, and Jaylen Brown's averaging 26, 5, and 3. They're doing their job. Brad Stevens, let Robert Williams play. Start Robert Williams. Start the Time Lord. He's such a good defender. Every time I watch him, I'm like, he knows what he's doing. He impacts the game on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know why he's coming off the bench. Tristan Thompson and Daniel Theis do not bring value to this team. I'm sorry. They don't help. I know Tristan Thompson gets rebounds, but they're not helping us on offense or defense consistently. Until Kemba gets back, the crunch time lineup for this team should be Peyton Pritchard, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Robert Williams. There shouldn't be a debate about that. When Kemba gets back, he moves into that lineup, and hopefully he's back to what he was before he came to the Celtics. But I don't understand the two big lineup, and that's why they're at 9, because it just doesn't make sense. At number 8, I have the Suns. the Phoenix Suns. Hot take time. This is not because of Devin Booker. Devin Booker is extremely overrated. I said it last season, I'm saying it now. Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell are the same player as Zach LaVine, but with better marketing. They're high-volume scorers who score simply for the sake of scoring. It does not impact winning. I'm sorry. He's the only player on the Suns who's played 100 minutes who has a negative box plus minus. Also the only player on the Suns who's played 100 minutes who has a negative defensive box plus minus. Everyone else on this team is fighting and playing scrappy basketball and trying their hardest. And he's turning the ball over five times a game. He's responsible for a third of their turnovers. He's not the reason they're 6-2. Give me more Mikal Bridges. Give me more Cameron Johnson. Mikal Bridges is averaging 14 and 5 on 46% shooting from three. Cameron Johnson's averaging 13 points on 42% from three off the bench. Give me those guys. They are playing their butts off. They're playing great defensively. I don't want to hear about Devin Booker. They've been the league's best defense so far this season. That's not because of Devin Booker. Don't get it twisted. Chris Paul is the leader of this team. Chris Paul is the reason this team is where they are right now and possibly a top 4 seed, top 3 seed in the West. Because of Chris Paul, not because of Devin Booker. Number 7, I have the Dallas Mavericks. They're playing defense. They're actually playing defense. A lot of that is because Luka's playing well defensively, Luka Doncic. Also, they have these role players, James Johnson, Dwight Powell, who are playing the scrappy. I mean, defense is a lot of times just effort, and they are giving it all on defense. I think their offense will get back on track when Kristaps Porzingis comes back in a couple of weeks. But I think their 51-point win over the Clippers showed what they can be, at least defensively. Luka needs to shoot better from three, but this team has all the upside in the world, and they should be at 7. At number 6, I have the Miami Heat. Defense. They're leading the league in turnovers on offense. They're struggling offensively, but we're gonna remember what they did in the bubble in the playoffs last year. Bam Adebayo right now is carrying the team. Jimmy Butler's not really helping with the scoring load. Bam Adebayo is carrying these guys, but the team's defense is keeping them this high. They've only given up 110 points twice this season, and it's that same scrappy fighter mentality that keeps them as one of the best teams in the NBA. Their upside may not be as high as some of these other teams in this area, but I mean, they did go to NBA championship last year, but it was a weird year. But you cannot watch this team and not say they can beat anybody in this league. Number 5, the Philadelphia 76ers. They can shoot all of a sudden. When you invest in shooters, thank you, Daryl Morey, your team can shoot. They're shooting 38% from three, which is a high number for 76ers. Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Embiid have all been on fire. That lineup, those 4 guys are plus 19.5 points when they're on the floor. When those 4 are on the floor, they're killing people. 10th in offense, 9th in defense. This team has all the upside in the world. They have the chance. They have a real chance to win the title this year. Ben Simmons needs to pick up his scoring. He's only averaging 13 points per game, but his defense has still been great. So, not going to complain. He'll figure it out. Number 4, the Brooklyn Nets. The firepower on this team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant is unmatched. Kyrie's averaging 27 points per game. KD's averaging 28. My take coming into the season was Durant is probably not going to be the same. Achilles tears kill NBA players. It just destroys their production. I was wrong about that. He looks like the same guy. Irving is playing well defensively, which is the most surprising thing for me. He's getting down there, getting in his stance, and like actually locking people down. Losing Spencer Dinwiddie hurts. I might have had them a little bit higher if he hadn't gotten hurt, but this team has all the upside in the world. The rest of the team outside of Durant, Kyrie, Jared Allen, and DeAndre Jordan needs to learn to play some defense as well. But when you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, you, again, can beat anybody in this league. At number 3, the Los Angeles Clippers. Surprisingly enough, Nicholas Batum has been a really nice addition. He's shooting super well from 3. And, of course, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George give them a chance to win every night. A lot of people are talking up Luke Kennard, who they also added this offseason. I don't see it. He doesn't really do much outside of shoot, and shooting's valuable. But I don't know how valuable it is when you kind of just spot up and you're just a shooter. So, number 2, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. They're in the number 1 offense in the league right now, and this is a unit that's just now learning how to play together. Their whole rotation really is playing well outside of Bryn Forbes, who's been really bad on defense. But they're just now learning to play together. The upside's there for a title run. Really, 1 through 9. 1 through 9. I'll say 1 through 10 because I don't want to be biased towards the Celtics. Really have a chance to make a run at NBA championship. But our number 1 team, the Los Angeles Lakers, has to be the favorite for the NBA championship. They made all the right moves this offseason. I've criticized a lot of what the Lakers have done building this team. But this year they did it the right way. Montrezl Harrell has been such a nice addition. Like, I know people love Dennis Schroeder, and I love him. He's a former Oklahoma State Thunder, but Montrezl Harrell just brings, instead of having JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, you have a real talented big man playing behind Anthony Davis. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been on fire from 3 this season. He's doing everything they need him to do. The whole team's playing really well on defense. It's the best team in the league. I've been saying every team, from 2 to 10, has a chance to win the NBA championship. But this Lakers team is going to be hard to get through, hard to beat. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. I plan on doing an NBA Power Rankings every week or every 2 weeks, depending on if I get any feedback about it. But I hope you enjoyed going through these teams and learning a little bit more about each of them. This was the DS Sports Podcast. Thanks for watching, and God bless.